Now,
All right.
are you back in Louisiana right now?
I'm actually in San Antonio right now with the guys,
Oh, okay.
and we are rehearsing in the room beneath this one.
Wow. Holy crap, man.
So
Very
we start hearing, drum cymbals and stuff bleeding through. That's why.
probably why. Great to see you, brother. Congratulations on the new song, Turn It Up Like. It's, right in the center lane of the unique sound of Nothing More. I'm curious, the Drumtron, the Bassanator, no other band really quite has a live performance like Nothing More does. And I'm curious as to what's next. I'm on the few, your fan side, and I've been seeing Daniel, tinkering with all this type of crazy stuff over the last 2 years. But are you working on something even bigger for the new tour?
Yeah, he embarked on this project 2.5 years ago when he described to us this kind of a drum robot thing, and we were all like, go for it, we're going to be working on the album, so go out in the garage and experiment. And so for the last 2.5 years he's been learning all kinds of things to make this idea come to life. And basically it's kind of evolved. It was like a drum robot, and it still is as far as I know, but it's also kind of like a lighting rig. But each drum, it's like this, it almost looks like this, where like these big arms are going out and they can twist and turn, and each drum on the arm can move independently, but it's all piston powered, the movement on it. So it really is like purely this mechanical feat that he's put together. So yeah, it's something that I've also talked about, standing on it. It's very tall. It's like 20 feet up.
Wow.
And it having some cool moments during the set that just is a little different than your traditional LED screen on stage, or things that you see with 90% of the touring acts. So we're always trying to think outside the box, try to do something just different and keep it interesting. And that is in the plan to be on this next tour. But we're at this weird bottleneck right now where in a lot of industries, they're all experiencing this supply chain pileup, where things that would have traditionally taken us a week or two to get are taking us months, and everything's twice as expensive. It's just been insane. So we're busting ass and really trying to make sure everything gets through on time, but we're cutting it to the wire here.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's funny. I was just reading an article last week talking about how Walmart has gone on and said, for any new truckers that we hire for Walmart, the starting salary is like $130,000 a year, which is far more than I make, than a lot of us make as working stiffs, right? And I'm like, oh my God. And then I was talking to the Disturbed camp earlier today. They're ready to put out a new record and get out on the road. The challenge is they can't find any truckers to go out and drive the equipment from one show to the next. And I guess Justin Bieber just poached like a half a dozen truckers from somebody else's big tour.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is trucker wars going on right now, huh?
Yeah, pretty much, man. Pretty much. Well, I'm excited to see you guys back out on the road, man. It's been way too long. You're doing this co-headline tour with Asking Alexandria, one of your label mates, by the way, a band that has a history of being notorious bad boys when it comes to partying out on the road. Tell me about your relationship with Danny and the guys in Asking Alexandria.
Well, it's a fairly new relationship. I mean, we've met them before. I think at a festival years ago, we met them, but hadn't said much other than a few words to each other. This just kind of the stars aligned. It was the perfect timing for them and for us. And which it's kind of funny. Danny and I think it might be the drummer. Actually ended up moving to New Braunfels, which is, as you know, right outside of San Antonio. So they are right down the road from us, and we can, consider them Texans now. So this is, I never expected them to be living here. So it's kind of funny that this all worked out. So we're probably going to hang out for the tour and get to know each other a little bit better. But yeah, other than that, this is our first time really touring together.
That's cool. Well, make sure you show them where all the good barbecue places are down there in San Antonio, and the difference between a great breakfast taco like you get in San Antonio and whatever the ripoffs are they have up the road in Austin there. Not to say anything bad about Austin. I'm sorry, in the breakfast taco war, San Antonio always wins.
Yeah, our manager Will is gonna disagree with you real hard on that one, which I'm
okay.
on your side on this one.
I'll go
SA all the way.
Will any day, any day. Speaking of partying on the road, Jonny, you are always, you appear at least always to be insanely healthy. I'm kind of curious, what is a daily regimen that you have to keep, health a priority, especially out on tour when there's a lot of downtime, and then of course you have the adrenaline rush of the show, and then after the show everybody wants to hang out with you, everyone wants to be your best friend. Do you have a regimen on the road that you kind of stick to?
Yeah, I have some more like principles that I've stuck to, and I have updated my regimen and my routine every tour just to kind of refine it. And it is like a huge part of a successful tour, at least for me specifically, because I'm very physical with my performance. I try to throw my energy into it and my body into it and try to give it all I got and leave it all on the stage. And in order to do that and to also keep my voice every night, maintaining my health has been a huge priority. I mean, honestly, number one, well, I shouldn't just say number one, but the basics are the most important. That's sleep, water, resting my voice properly, and diet. Those are the most important ones. And if you get those in order, 90% of your problems will be taken care of. Outside of that, I've experimented with different like exercise routines on the road, but it's always been a very tricky balance because you can't exercise or go through a routine like you would in a normal like at home life kind of routine, because so much is demanded of you each night that you need to have a reserve of energy ready to go for the show. So I have adjusted it. I'm trying a new exercise protocol on this next tour that's just purely isometrics, which is a very old school fitness technique that if you think back to the early 1900s, like, the old strong men who would like bend steel and do all that stuff. Bruce Lee was another notorious figure who used isometrics all the time, but it's a much more recoverable you can recover much quicker and have more energies in reserve for something like being on the road. So I'm going to test that out this tour. But other than that, it's just meats, cheeses, fruits, vegetables, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I tend to eat pretty healthy myself, and I was doing a lot of yoga before the pandemic shut down, gyms and stuff like that. I've got a tough time just going into a gym and pumping iron. But if I have an appointment somewhere and somebody that I'm going to let down if I don't get there, then it keeps me on my game. So I've gotten back into yoga as of January, and I got hot yoga tonight.
Nice.
I've lost about 12 pounds in the past 10 weeks, so I'm excited about that.
Wow. Hey, congrats, man. That's the key, is just knowing what works for you. And if like, I know a lot of people like that where if you have that scheduling and that appointment, with some people's minds that just seems to work really well. And if it does, that's awesome.
Going back to the new album, a lot of folks, a lot of fans have, they're chomping at the bit. This album has taken a bit longer than most would expect from a band like Nothing More. What has been the biggest challenge when it comes to working on this new record? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you guys try to push yourself to really outdo the last thing that you've done, but tell me about that.
Yeah. There's been a lot of challenges actually along the way with this one. One of them, I would say the first kind of period of time that went by that was, I guess, kind of a delay. It wasn't so much of a challenge. It was just that a release of energy after being on the road for years and years and years, and circling the globe multiple times on both the past two albums.
Mm-hmm.
We all just needed a little normalcy for a bit, and kind of like family life, friend life, just kind of the normal stuff that people take for granted. And when you tour or you work a job where you're not home a lot, you really appreciate those things very differently than the average person. Just even having your own refrigerator, your own bathroom, like those kinds of things are huge when you're traveling with 12 people stuffed into a sardine can with wheels. And so there was that at the beginning of the process. And then there was the challenge of just getting re-inspired, and COVID hit, and we were in a very different scenario than we had been on past albums, where I was living in Louisiana, our drummer was living in Arizona, and Mark and Dan were living in San Antonio, Texas. And to work together became like this logistical issue that we had to overcome and figure out how we make an album while maintaining like a normalcy in our lives and not always having to be tethered to each other. So we went through a learning process there, learning how to work mobily, and write songs, and then learning when we just need to book flights and be together for certain parts of the process. And then the other side is just, like every album has this one challenge, which is how do you do something fresh, and how do you not cover the same ground that you covered on the last two albums? And you're always going to run into critics no matter which way you go. If you do the same thing, people are going to be like, yeah, it's what I expected, but it's not really that interesting. And if you go too far the other way, it's like, this isn't the Nothing More that I fell in love with. And so trying to ride that fine line is always the challenge. And I can say pretty confidently that we did it on this next album, because it's such a wide spectrum, song to song. Like even just hearing Turn It Up, that is uniquely its own thing. Yeah. And when you hear the next song, it's kind of its own thing. When you hear some of the other tracks on the album, they each just have their own place, and that's what we're always looking for.
That's great, man. And okay, so tell me about the official first single. Turn It Up Like is the official fan track, but you guys have got an actual single that you're going to pump out to radio, and hopefully it'll be a big hit across the country. What can you tell me about that song? You have a name for it and all that stuff?
Yeah. So the first radio single is called "Tired of Winning," and it was actually kind of a joke title at first. We oftentimes name our songs when we're demoing them just something random or funny or an inside joke, or this one happened to be you probably know it's like a Trump quote, "Tired of winning." Mm-hmm. And so it really was just done in jest and with no thought. But then as the concept of the song and the lyrics started really evolving and coming into their own, it actually kind of made sense, and it tied in with it. And so when you hear it, you'll probably hear what I'm talking about. But it's just it's a very digestible song, because we just came out with a song that is relentless, and it just kind of punches you in the eardrums over and over and over. But the reason we wanted to release that first with the video was that we wanted that insane kind of punch in the face energy to just kind of be a bucket of cold water to wake people up and go, we're back. And it's not exactly what you expected. And then this next song, it's a much easier get. It's just more digestible. And the rest of the album,
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. And so do you have a release date or a name for the new album yet you can share?
We do. My head is in rehearsal mode right now, so I don't even know, but I'm pretty sure it's like in the next week or two or something.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty soon. It's coming up here.
Good. Well, I'm excited to check that out. I'm curious, Jonny, you were talking about how it has been different, the writing process with with the members of the band being away from each other, and certainly the pandemic. All of us have, all of a sudden Zoom is now a commonplace thing. Could you envision a time whereby you can harness some of this new technology and feasibly do a Nothing More fan co-write or feature fan vocals, like gang vocals on a song, and release a video with people from a Zoom session all singing along to the chorus, and that actually is what ends up on an album?
Yeah, we totally can do something like that. I don't know I guess we'd have to piece it together after the fact, because there's always a bit of a lag. Yeah. But yeah, something like that yeah, that'd be interesting.
You know, Shim, I don't know if you know, Shim was with the Sick Puppies, but during the height of the pandemic, he was doing quite a bit of that from Australia with a lot of American fans and writing songs with just people who would submit an idea. Like, I have this riff at home, and Shim would put it together, and then they would work via email on coming up with lyrics, and he was doing these songs. It was actually pretty damn cool.
Really?
Yeah, interesting.
Huh.
Maybe something in the back of your mind to consider, you know.
Yeah.
Looking back at your career, and then I'll wrap it up. I know you guys got to get back into rehearsal, but what could you say was an invaluable piece of advice that you really took to heart early on about crafting and staying true to the brand of what Nothing More is?
Sorry, can you reword that one more time? My head actually thought two things at the same time.
There's something that you can think back and go, wow, somebody told us something about crafting our brand and always staying true to that brand. Were you ever given a piece of advice that has stuck with you, that you have implored into everyday life now as you were early on getting the record contract and getting into this machine?
Yeah, I definitely came across a bunch of different pieces of wisdom along the way. The biggest thing that I couldn't point you to the exact experience of this, but along the way, we did learn that the brand, which I hate using the word brand, even though we know what it means, but it sounds like so marketing, like soulless, product oriented. But the essence, that's kind of what I'm getting at, is more like, what's the essence of Nothing More, which is kind of the brand, right? And that is much bigger than any of us individually. I mean, you even see that with artists before us who are huge, and you see the singer or the guitar player go do a side project, and it never quite, amounts up to the same level of myth and legend and all these things that surround the original projects. So I always try to keep that in mind, because I definitely want to do some solo stuff moving into the future, but I keep in mind how much bigger that is than any of us individually.
Very cool, man. Well, like I said, I can't wait to hear the new album, Jonny, and congratulations on everything. I'm glad you guys are back in action, and it doesn't look like the Asking Alexandria Nothing More tour is coming incredibly close to me, but I'm down to hop in the car and take a road trip over the pass to Sacramento or wherever. And hopefully we can get you back in here sometime soon.
Man, I wish we were hitting Reno this time. I thought we were, but again, my head's a million different places right now, just trying to get ready for the road. Well, if not this time, we'll catch you next time. And as always, pleasure talking with you and seeing you, Jave.
Right on. Thanks, Jonny. You too, man. Take care and have a good rest of your rehearsal today, okay?
All right, brother. Can't wait for you to hear the rest of the album.
You too. Take care.
Catch you later.